Take two. Welcome to SRI Shorts. I'm David Dayton, and I'm talking today about China's new visa opening up, allowing people to go to China from multiple countries for 30 days. This is super exciting, unless, of course, you're Canadian or American or British. Since I'm American, this hasn't helped me out very much, but I recognize the importance of this change, and I'm excited about the opportunity for people to get to go to China much easier than they previously could. So what's important about this, if particularly I'm American and I can't go? Well, right now, the process of getting to China as an American or Canadian or British person that doesn't have these new visa opportunities is completely onerous. You have to use a courier, and you've got to send your passport to an embassy. You've got to pay the fees both for the courier and for the embassy, and oftentimes for somebody to correct it all for you, so you're paying for a visa service as well. And if you've got a family with, multiple children, you're looking at thousands of dollars to get to China before you buy airplane tickets and before you even go to China. And so this new visa scheme is awesome, and I'm really excited for the Chinese to have exposure to the world and people in the world to have exposure to China. I just really hope that China takes the step to be proactive in maybe building or mending or repairing or shoring up the relationship with the United States, Canada, and Britain, and extends this visa policy to us as well. I'm really excited about the opportunities to go more often, to see family, to do business, to spend money, to go on academic exchanges, whatnot. This would just make things so much easier. So I think it's a really great start, and I'm excited about where things are going. And China has made a couple of really good steps in the last few years. So even before they announced this visa program a year ago, they allowed foreign credit cards to be used in WeChat and Alipay. Now, I'll forgive you if that doesn't sound like a big deal to you. If you've never been to China or you don't know anybody from mainland China, you've probably never used WeChat or Alipay, so you probably don't know that everything in China is digital, and you cannot live in China without WeChat or Alipay, meaning you can't pay for anything. They don't want your cash. It's very difficult to find cash. I remember standing in a restaurant and trying to pay, and I had cash before I could put a foreign credit card on my WeChat just a few years before COVID. And the only way I could do it was to pay an individual, a private individual, cash. They would accept my cash, the restaurant wouldn't, and then that person used their WeChat account to pay for the meal. And that happened on a regular basis. Buying tickets domestically in China was a nightmare with unless you had stacks of cash and you had to go to the window, which means everybody that was buying online was getting the seats before you. Things were sold out. It was just really, really, really difficult. So China is making huge strides to this. And to that end, I want to say kudos to them. I'm excited that we can use credit cards. I'm excited now that there's more people who can get there. But I think that this is larger than just a couple of these logistical issues. I think that it's a trust issue. I think that there's still a barrier to people going there. And I say that based on a couple of experiences. So my experience in China is I lived in mainland China for 12 years. I lived in Taiwan for 3 years. I worked with the Chinese community for multiple years in Thailand. So I've lived in the area and worked with Chinese there for more than 20 years. And my experience in working with Chinese and working with foreigners that are going in and out of China is that people want to like China, but there's just levels of frustration that make it difficult. And a lot of these levels of frustrations are now being eliminated. Visas are one, credit cards are another, right? But there's a level of trust, and there's a level of language and culture that still is very difficult. And one of the reasons why it hasn't gotten any easier to overcome these language and cultural barriers is because, again, there's a level of government interference in the daily lives of foreigners. And I'm not saying they need to change the system for all Chinese, but foreigners don't have access to things like Google Translate. Foreigners have a very difficult time searching and finding answers for how do I get here? What map systems can I use? Where can I go in the country if I don't speak any Chinese, if I don't read or write any Chinese? What are my options for being able to navigate and travel and move around myself, and then talk to people individually, directly, to have these one-on-one conversations that China wants to have because they recognize the value of the soft power, but individuals really can't have unless A, the Chinese are fluent in English or another language, or B, there's some translation assistance available. And there really isn't anything that's valuable, or there really isn't anything that's available that's effective to overcome these things. And so The people that are going to China are people that are already interested in China. People that are already convinced that, hey, this is either A, going to be the trip of a lifetime, or B, I'm interested in doing business here and I want to get to know more, or C, I've had some interactions with some Chinese in my life and, this is icing on the cake. This is, the coup de grace. This is the end of all these relationships or the building of a new basis for life or relationships or whatnot. And so having said that, I feel like that there is the majority of the world who has not had those positive experiences with China. And to have those positive experiences with China, you not only have to go to China, but you have to be able to have the interactions and the convenience and the functionality of being able to exist and live and travel and move around and talk to people for 30 days in China, which, if you're not very patient or don't speak any Mandarin, can be very, very, very difficult. And so I think that there's always going to be a level of mistrust until people can communicate a little bit more freely. Now, piggybacking on that a little bit and the idea of these personal relationships extending soft power for China out into the world today is instant media. We do something and we post it. We live stream. We take photos and we share immediately. Foreigners going to China don't have that opportunity. You can post on WeChat, sure, but how many people do you know outside of China that have WeChat that aren't Chinese? Not very many. And so the reality is that China has got to find a way to allow not only foreigners to come to China and have a convenient, pleasant, personalized experience in China, but they have to find a way to allow foreigners to share those experiences while they're in China. What it's like immediately. Live stream yourself hiking a sacred Chinese mountain. Take a 360 photo and post pictures of dinner, on the Bund in Shanghai or at the Forbidden City or the Great Wall in Beijing or something like that, right? Those things need to be live streamed and shared. Because if people go to China and then come home and then 2 to 3 or 4 weeks later, they start posting things about their photos and pictures and videos about their experience, it's all post hoc. And it's better than nothing, absolutely, right? But nothing is as powerful as the instantaneous media that we have the ability to share things right now with. And so I think that things are getting better in China. Very excited about that. Looking forward to more academic exchanges, looking forward to more business trips. But there is still a ways to go. And before China can convert these convenient trips, now more convenient trips to China, into soft power, they're going to have to find a way to allow foreigners to interact with people. Can I talk with people, or am I going to go to China and be scared about what I can and can't say and not being able to post anything on my social media site for the rest of the world to see anyway? Those are still barriers that need to be overcome. Steps are being taken in the right direction. Hopefully this will increase the numbers of business visitors, the numbers of family visitors, the number of tourists, the number of academics and students that are going, because right now the numbers are dismal, right? But they should be getting better now with these opportunities. So let's hope that happens, and let's hope that we can find a way that we can share. We can start talking about China outside of China in positive ways, because China is still the second largest economy. China is still the second largest population. China is still an influence in the world, and China will increasingly be an influence in the world in terms of technology and supply chains and geopolitics, and we have got to get used to and understand, whatever our political position is, we have to figure out how to navigate and negotiate with China better. If you're interested in learning how to navigate and negotiate China better, look me up. I'm David Dayton, Silk Road International. This is SRI Shorts, and I'll talk to you about China again soon. Bye-bye.